Hey yo, hey yo. Oh man, what a what a freaking night, folks! Just when I thought it was we were making progress. I hope you and yours are doing well where you're at. I am just jumping in here, getting started. Got Discord open over on the iPad. Um, I should like move that to where I can see it a little better. Like I shouldn't just always hide it so far down. I'm becoming less professional about this every day. Seems like I'm less and less organized. I kid. I kid. Actually, that's weird. Should I put it right there? Oh, that's interesting. Maybe. Maybe. See Kara checking in. Oh, hey. Yeah. Yeah, I know all about rabbit holes. Know all about rabbit holes, Kara. The quote here from Kara: "Spent too much time researching art and graphics, going down too many rabbit holes, and not getting any actual design work done." You know, that is a legitimate issue. Um, you can you can do it with typography, you can do it with color, you can just do it with finding that perfect photo or that perfect illustration. Um, One thing to keep in mind is that, particularly when you're working on parts of the project that are going to be populated by somebody other than yourself, and what I'm talking about here is the for Fresh Market, think about like the menu, like the items that you are shown there. Um, those are going to be largely out of your control. Like, you're going to hand it over to the client, and they're going to upload all sorts of different photos and things, and you can't get too fussy about perfection in those instances, because you can try to coach them. You can try to coach them and tell them, hey, I think you should use this sort of photo and whatnot. But at the end of the day, the design has to be strong enough, or I should say, the design has to be flexible enough, which is a different kind of strength, to withstand less than ideal data inputs from the client, if that makes any sense. And what I'm really trying to get at is, don't get too fussy about things that will ultimately be automated in the design. Now, if you want to get fussy on the homepage, be my guest, because ultimately most homepages are they're under your control. Like you have the ability to control what comes out of them, which is why we're doing preference testing, and we're going 3 different directions, and kind of trying to stretch the bounds. Okay, but those internal pages, they're going to have they've got to be flexible enough that they don't break. And that's where I try like really long words, really long titles, photos that aren't quite perfect, and all of it makes me want to like go do, I don't know, 100 more exercises, just hitting the fringe issues to kind of help train us into understanding what we're really up against when it comes to information transfer and information upload from sources that we don't control. But I digress, because Couchbot has fired, and all of that will eventually be chopped away when we edit this down. So, greetings once and all. Greetings once and all. Goodness gracious. Greetings, everybody. Chris Courtney here from New Pragmatic. It is time for the feedback loop. It's it's a relatively busy Tuesday morning. We've got Luigi in here. We've got Katie in here. We've got Rebecca in here. I saw Kara popped into Daily Stand Up, so it's good to see you there, Kara. Today, we're going to be looking at a lot of the visual side of things. Um, Mainly because that's just where the projects are that have been submitted today. Um, had an opportunity to go through Chelsea's observational research. It's really interesting, some of the findings that she had about how people are distancing in public spaces, and also the sheer lack of any sort of mask usage in a public space. It's quite astonishing. But what it also what I'm really interested in, and this kind of goes back to last fall when Luigi, Kara, and Eve, who are Luigi and Kara are in different parts of the New York area, and then Eve is down in South Carolina. And it was interesting to see the difference of their observational research when it came to grocery stores. It's like there was, and you can find very different experiences within the same city, but the distinct differences between Eve's experience and say Luigi's experience, or the New York cluster, was um, I don't want to say entertaining, but it was. Yeah, I could spend days reading through observational research that designers are doing on the same project in different areas of the country. I just find it fascinating. We are really similar, but what you'll find is that our surroundings illuminate how different we are in different parts of the country. So I'm really excited to get. I'm really excited for the next round of observational research that I see, because right now Chelsea is the newest member of the team. I'm interested to see what happens when we're not looking at Austin, Texas. What happens if that same research was done in, well, heck, New York City, where the COVID-19 crisis was highest, or Florida, or here in Chicago? What about what happens when we take it overseas? What happens when we go over to somebody does that same research down in Brazil, or Istanbul? That's why we do the research, because everybody's different everywhere you go, and we're trying to find a range of norms that people will operate within. That said, let's go ahead and get started. So we're going to jump in, and I'm going to jump in right here because Katie's dropped in her Type 101 exercise. And if you know me, you know I'm a big type nerd. Although I've got to get my screens together here, because it's very hard to kind of see what's going on. Luigi, we're going to come back to you. We're going to start right here with Katie. And we're looking at Katie's type exercise. And this is basically, it's Type 101. It's literally called Type 101. And the whole purpose of this is to, Katie's new to visual design, and the ability to talk about typography, to know that this is a counter, or know that this is an ascender. Obviously, things like serifs, people typically know. One thing that people don't necessarily know is the X height. This little barrier right here. And the X height is so crucial to understanding what will make a good typeface that you can utilize in a lot of different ways, and a less than ideal typeface that really has limited usage, mainly to display typography. Like if you want to find, it's going to be very hard to find a typeface that displays well at a smaller size, that doesn't have a significant X height. And when I say significant, I mean greater than half the height of the total character. And as you can see here in this case, when your capital B is structured like this, and the X height is 75% of the height of the capital B, that means you have a significant X height. Um, so anyway, looking at this, you've got your baseline, you've got your ascender, descender, counter, serifs, overhang, X height, cap height, ascender height, which you didn't have to know what ascender height was, but it is always interesting how often I am asked the question of, I don't know why this ascender is going above the capital letters of my typeface, and I have to say that's how it's made. There's nothing going wrong. There's nothing wrong with the typography, and it's also nothing wrong with the typography if it doesn't go above. Like, there are instances where you can have it constructed without it above. That it's just typeface by typeface, and these are the things that really make typefaces unique, and give them character and life. This is one of the areas where I want to expand. I just haven't as of yet, because there are a lot of other parts of the typeface that I want to focus on, and hopefully we'll get to that soon. But you did good there, Katie. As we come over, this is the more important piece of the puzzle. Like, the first piece is like, hey, if I say to you, hey, Katie, can we try something that has a larger counter? You know what that is. Here, it's can you spot the proper possible usage for a given typeface? And I've given you a label, I've given you a headline, and I've given you a paragraph of text. And the job for you is to go through and determine, okay, if this were used, what would be the most likely usage for it? So we have Dido, Roboto, and IBM Plex. And over here, when you see this, it's a beautiful, elegant headline, and it's elegant because of the difference between the stroke weights. The horizontal strokes are very thin. The vertical strokes are very thick. It's striking, and it's also harder than hell to read at a smaller size, especially by comparison with Roboto, which you see right next to it. Roboto is extremely even. Like, there's virtually no stroke modulation in that at all. It is a very boring headline font, because it's just like, once you get it up in size, it's just like, it's kind of sleepy. I don't really care for it. But as a label, it works fine too. Dido, not so much as a label. There are things that you could probably do to this that would make it a bit better. And I can't get into it to show you those things. Katie, I've got to have you share these files with me. Not that I really need to make changes to this one, but there will be moments like the one, like, when we get into working with Rebecca and Luigi's stuff here in a second. Now, over here on IBM Plex, this is interesting. You've labeled this as label and headline worthy, not paragraph, and IBM Plex seems to have a medium contrast. This is a bit this has a bit smaller cap height than Roboto. It's nice that you picked up on that, because you can compare these across. Narrow counters. Yeah, I mean, the counters are pretty open on this one. I don't necessarily know if they're what I would call narrow. Now, at a smaller type size, I do think the serifs hurt here, but I also think that part of this, and we'll definitely get into this, is part of this comes down to the usage of line height. When you have things that are packing in, and the typography doesn't have the room to really expand, then I think the typography feels very, very congested. Here, the lights and darks are just, it's not even enough for you to use it as a paragraph text. Here, obviously, you can totally use it. Here, it's still pretty even, but it for you to use it, you need more line height. And in the upcoming exercises, Katie, you'll look at line height, you'll look at horizontal and vertical spacing, you'll look at weights. This is basically trying to identify the right usage at the right time, and you've done a good job here. So good job overall. Full speed ahead as you move forward. Let's take a look here. Just checking on feedback loop. All right. So here, Rebecca's working through my click shift, and yesterday I pushed her to give this section regarding the quote a little more attention, because it felt as if it was basically just like the rest of the design. And right now where we're at with it, I don't really believe is ideal. And mainly it's let's okay. So mainly this is the issue here, I believe, is just we've kind of squeezed it into this space. Now, if you wanted to do the screen, I think that's fine. I don't necessarily think that going full width is probably the right way to go. Although if I bring that, let's bring this columns back. Let's look at a few different designs, and to do this, I'm going to just take this information, just bring it down, so that we can kind of work in here. I don't ever want to find ourselves kind of trapped into a design. So let's keep yours here, okay? So as we're working through, the first thing is, if you're gonna have this photo here, like either have it off to the side or have it in the center. Like, don't get kind of close to the center. From there, I would consider, like bringing this down. There needs to be a tone change between these two items. This is doing a different job than that. So I might look at this in alternate or in regular. I might look at it at 20. Also would probably center that up. I don't think it's necessarily a bad idea to capitalize his name. He has a proper name. You could also come through and do this if you wanted to, and maybe you give this a bold, and maybe this comes down some more. Maybe this is like 16. Okay. And now we're starting to get a proper like unit here. The question I have is, does it need to be in the center? I don't necessarily know yet. I'm going to try this a few different ways. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at this. I'm going to get it on the grid, and I'm going to center it up. And do I need the background? Maybe, maybe not. Let's try this. Let's try a few different things here. So here's the guy, and okay, so that's one possibility. All right. So we've gone from this to this. I am curious. Like right now, this is. Okay, so that's 18. All right, so that's 18. Right now, this is 22. What happens if this becomes 18? I'm not really sure. Becomes 18. I kind of wonder if we go in further, just to draw attention to it. So that I think that is an option. Let's keep pushing on it though, because I always think that there's a lot of different ways to present the same information. Let's go and do this. Um, Now, this design is getting a little too precious about the space here, because what if he had a longer name? But he doesn't have a longer name. This is the guy. So there's a possibility here of doing it that way. You could also go up if you want it to. And this gets it back into the size that you had before. So that we've got a couple of options already. You can flip this the other way. Do I really like it like that, or do I want this to kind of lead? And I think this is going a bit more the traditionalist route, if you will, because it gets the quote heading in the right direction. You could also come in here and do a few things with regard to this intro, like the beginning with the quote. Is this where you come in with a drop cap, or not really a drop cap, but if I make this like 200. And I say I never can really pull that off and be happy with it. So I'm gonna stay away from that. What I will say is that what we haven't really looked at is there line work that's to the top and bottom of this that you've already looked at spacing with a section header like with a background. Part of this makes me think, well, is there something with just lines? I don't know. If I did something like that, would that be beneficial? So there's a few options. I'm going to change this one back to 18 just because I do think that you could even come back and make it go further with it if you want it to. You could also make his name a little smaller. Stop me if I'm just being nuts. And I'm gonna keep moving this down because there's just no shortage of ideas here. Like we could go all day with this. Let's go back and do something with just the. I do think if you go edge to edge with the type, or I mean with like a color in the background, I think it has to begin to go wider, because I think if you took this design and I said, okay, I'm gonna put a swath of color behind it. I do think it gets kind of lost in there by itself. I also think EEE, go pretty light with it. probably a situation where I would take it down, bring it back out. Whoops. Do something along those lines. Yeah, I mean, so, there's lots of ways to do it. All of it is about trying to create a unit. Either I'm creating this unit where this is working together. I'm, it's all centered basically. I haven't done a lot throwing things off to the side. Now, if I wanted to do that, there is nothing keeping me away from doing that. I could always say, hey, you know what? This is going to be right here. And this is going to be right here. And that's that. I could totally do that. Now, if I decided to do that, I do think my inclination is to try to get it back on the grid with everything else. And maybe go wide like so. And then maybe also bring this over to the edge. So we're trying to create a unit for this rather than just kind of throwing it in there. But this is really all about spacing. All about spacing, all about organization. So take a look at those. I think we came up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different options. 10 minutes. Just pick one. You said, okay, we looked at Katie's. How does okay? So you made the writing changes. Let's go read that on the actual site. Let's see here. Let's go ahead and go live with this. Oh, I guess I've got to turn that off. No, I'll turn it back on. My client create, so I can right away pick up client instead of he. Client is it just sounds like you're a more professional business. My client created my click shift when they were head of HR my client created my click shift while they were the head of HR at a nursing home. The initial goal of the project was solely to make his work, or make the initial goal of the project was to was to streamline processes, or it sounds very self-serving when it says I'm solely just trying to make my work better. So think about that. Eventually, he ended up converting the rest of the nursing home chain into customers of the into his customers. It sounds like it was an internal job, and I don't know. Eventually, he ended up converting the rest of the nursing home chain into customers or users of the platform. With only one large account, my client found himself spending a lot of money on storage and upkeep. Then a big administrative change and some resulting internal politics caused the chain to drop the app, resulting in a big overnight loss for my client. It's really like a negative tone, a big administration change at the nursing home chain saw them migrate away from the application, resulting in a big overnight loss for my client. The the internal politics piece of it sounds like sour grapes, and I don't want that in your case study, because it has nothing to do with you. Like, it's not you. It's just like this thing happened. They had a change. They migrated away. This guy had to figure out something else to do with the app. So the pivot, the experience he had, the experience my client had, because like there's no reference to he before this, so I would say you need to reintroduce my client. The experience my client had losing all of his business overnight led to a pivot with focus on led to a pivot. The experience my client had losing his only customer overnight forced him to pivot to focus on small and medium-sized business owners. The migration away from healthcare would provide him with a broader, addressable misspelling market. That's when I was approached to do competitive research, and that's when I was approached to do competitive research. My main goal was to identify and learn more about his potential new users. From there, we could determine what features would need to be changed or added to the application. The App Store owner, that's all his voice. The vast majority of my clients' target users are currently Kronos, Workday, or Ultimate Software Pro. Kronos, Workday, Pro. The competitive analysis showed these giants were not necessarily ideal for smaller companies. Their detailed offerings do a lot more than most small businesses need and overwhelm the small business user. Both the competitive analysis and user feedback suggest that a mobile-first strategy would resonate with the customers, in this space. An idea was developed after performing the analysis was to develop an idea that developed after performing our analysis. It was decided to develop a product that mainly works on mobile for employees, but both mobile and desktop, okay, so this one needs a lot of work. After reviewing our research, it was determined that a progressive web app, PWA, would be an ideal solution in this space. A PWA would work on mobile for employees, but also address the needs of HR managers. Like that paragraph. And I think the problem here is an idea that developed after performing the analysis was to develop. It's that develop issue. So we need to fix that. And also the PWA, that's what you need to make, and you kind of have it tacked on at the end, and it's not a complete sentence. A tangible watch product in addition to the app is another direction that might be. I'm not really a tangible watch product in addition to. I don't know what that would be. Is that like an Apple Watch? Like that's I don't know. I would drop that. Either drop it or expand it. It's just kind of there. App owner. Okay, so here are the users. The app owner defined his users as being anyone who hires people, restaurants, retail, constructions, to build a general product that would solve these users' unique HR problems and frustrations with their current system. I wanted to talk to them all. Uh, the app owner defined his users as anyone who hires people. Um, uh, okay. So to build a general product that would solve each of the user's unique HR problems and frustrations with their current system, I want it to talk to them all. Um, I think potentially shifting to something more along, because of the expanding potential audience. I want it to broaden the scope of my research to see if there was a way to address, to see if there was a way to determine what their frustrations and needs were. I wanted to expand my research to find if there were commonalities in the group. Um, like, yeah, I think you've got to somehow, like, don't worry about the product yet. Talk about the research. Um, some common denominator struggles I heard from users. Um, the common threads from my research, I discovered 3 common threads, or there were 3 common issues: retaining professionalism in a small business setting, finding replacements on short notice when your limited staff cancels last minute. I think you can just say finding replacements on short notice. Um, Finding replacements on short notice with a limited pool of with limited staffing to begin with, or finding, I don't know, I just think finding replacements on short notice. Retaining professionalism in small business environment or setting, finding replacements on short notice. Business owners feel that they always have to be there and that no one takes care of my business like I do. That's a thing, but it's not in tone with the other 2. Um, Providing business owners with a way to not be on site. Providing business owners with confidence isn't the word I'm looking for. Providing business owners with a way to ins- have better trust. Providing business owners, or just say business owners trusting that their employees will execute at a desired level. Okay, that pulls that into line with the other 2. Many of these businesses employ young, inexperienced waiters, waitresses, salespeople. Additional employees don't treat most of these lines of work as permanent. The exception to this rule was gyms. I think you can say many of these businesses do all that, and then say most employees do not treat low level isn't what most employees do not see these jobs, or do not see this type of work as permanent. The exception we found, the exception to the rule was gyms. Okay, I think, like, some adjustment there as well. Um, oh God, what happened? Okay, I must be at the bottom. So you need to get some space on that bottom. A footer would be nice. The project was a good reminder that not every product needs to work for every person. By focusing on a specific user base, my client found room in the market for a simpler, more affordable product for business owners. Um, okay, that's like a conclusion. Um, you know, uh, it was a good product that the project was a good reminder that products need to find a specific audience. Products need to be built for an audience. Um, um, yeah, I think you can go further with that. I think there's a lot more work that needs to be done up here than down here. I am curious. The product, the pivot, um, the app owner. Yeah, this is a lot more. I think this is short enough that you don't necessarily need to like move the what I learned up top, but you need to expand on it. Um, and I'll just keep an eye out for what you've got there moving forward. But between the reworks that we've covered here, because there are some significant reworks there and there, I think you've got enough, and the quotes. I think you've got enough to move forward for today, and we'll come back to you tomorrow and see where you're at. Luigi is working on its fresh market branding exercise, and let's jump over to Figma. There we go. All right, Luigi. What do you? Whoa, hey. Gonna give everybody over here. Oh, I did change the background on this when I pulled it up because the background was like this. I feel like it's hard to see where the edges are. So just to make things easier, I just gave it like a common background so we can kind of see what's going on. All right, so right away, I'll zoom in a little bit. The gist of this exercise is that we're pushing these in different directions. Okay? Right now what I'm seeing is different colors. And this is the sort of adjustment that I believe you make iteratively. Like, let's figure out what the overall tone is. Let's shift around photos. Let's adjust the design. We're still exploring. Okay. You haven't done the affinity, or not the affinity. Gosh, you haven't done the preference testing yet. Let that data come in and kind of begin to guide you, so that you can then come in and begin to do refinements. Like, if this was the final design, if this was like, oh yeah, I ran preference testing, and preference testing said they loved this setup more than that setup, then you come back and then you do the, okay, so is it orange? Is it yellow? Is it, well, I guess red, yellow, orange. That's really the change, and you've adjusted some colors. Okay? I'm looking for two designs that go in different directions. I'm looking for two designs that stretch out and imagine. Okay, all right. Option 1, that's done. Options 2 and 3, same content, utilize different photos. Look at slightly different arrangements. Okay. Try to iterate and push this forward. Now, what you may find, and I don't know this for certain, you may have iterated to this point. You may have, done one design and then done another design and then said, oh, well, I want to refine it. I'm encouraging you to not necessarily refine it as you go. I'm encouraging you to get 3 designs going in different directions and then go get some feedback. Not from me, get feedback from the group. Like, find out which direction is resonating and then begin to refine and shape in that manner. Right now, these are really close together. They're well done. Okay, I have no qualms about how they're done. My big concern is that we're in a situation where we're like getting down into the further refinements before we've gotten any feedback. If you showed these threes and said, "Hey, what do you think?" to anybody, they would look at them and think, maybe the orange, maybe the red. I don't know. There's nothing to really think about at this moment. We're really talking about like which color do you like, not which presentation do you like. And that's a preference test. The preference test is really about like what do you like, what do you gravitate toward, and I really want to see this head in 3 different directions. Utilize different photography. Utilize present the headline in a different way. Yes, this is the hero unit, but you can do different things within it. Okay, so try to stretch out. And if you say I want to keep the footer the same, that's fine. If the footer, if you love the footer just the way it is, that's fine. My big thing is that when I open up the site and I see it 3 different ways. Give me some options to see if I'm going to gravitate toward one or the other. Right now, I don't gravitate more toward anything because it's really just a color exercise. Okay, so keep option 1, stretch out on options 2 and 3, and then let's put it into a preference test. All right. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it. That's a wrap. Well, I think it's a wrap. I better check the feedback loop. Yeah, that's a wrap. That's a wrap for this morning's edition of the feedback loop. I've got a busy day ahead of me. I'm going to be releasing a lot of new stuff today. So I hope you and yours are well. Take care of one another. Support your local businesses. Remember, Black Lives Matter, your local community matters, and you matter. All right? And with that, that's the feedback loop. I'll see you later. Take care.